Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF HaYomi, GITTEN Ayin Zayin. We are on the last line of Ayin Vav Amud Beis. Amar Abaye. Now, this next piece of Gemara relates directly back to the last piece we learned yesterday. So just a quick, brief recap. We had a case where a fellow gave a get. Hareza gitech. If I don't return within 12 months and he passed away within that time period, Mishnah says, no get, because once he passes away, he cannot issue a get. But if he would say, Mei Hayayim, he would say, Mei Achshav, right? This get starts from today on condition that I do not return within 12 months. So then even if he passes away within that time period, the get gets activated retroactively during his lifetime, from that moment that he actually gave the get, Mei Achshav. So it works. However, there was a shita called Rabbi Yehuda, our Rebbe's, a reference to the Reish Bezdin, the Bezdin of Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, and they actually held that even without saying the word Mei Achshav or Mei Hayayim, it works. This was based on Rabbi Yehuda, who says, Zmanei shel shtar mechiach alav, if you have a date recorded on a shtar, on a get, that's the biggest indication that he wants it Mei Achshav, he wants it Mei Hayayim, so it substitutes for actually saying Mei Hayayim or Mei Achshav. Now the Gemara will further explain and elaborate exactly, which case is the case which is subject to machlekes. And the Gemara will bring a parallel case, a similar case, referring to sunrise and has basically the same value as the case we speak about in our Mishnah. It's just a comparative case to add clarity to our Mishnah. Amar Abaye. Okay, Hakol Moedim all agree. There's no machlekes. Heichad Amar, when a fellow says to his wife, look, here's your get. Likish Teitze Chamam Ratika. Okay? This is a middle of the night. He gives it again. He says, when the sun comes out of its envelope, basically, when the sun rises, what did he mean to say? He meant, then the get will be chal. Lichi nafka ka'amar la. He meant to say the get only takes effect when the sun comes out. V'chi ma'is belel, you have a get lachar misa. Let's say he passes away before that happens. He's meis balayla. Too late, you can't have a get la'achar misa after his passing. And likewise in our case, in our Mishnah, he gives it a get and says, Hareza gitech, likish sheloi avoy la'achar 12 chodesh. When I do not return at that 12-month mark. The get is pending, is awaiting his return or non-return. And if he passes away within that time period, you can't have a get, because the get was not activated until the 12-month mark. So that's clear. But let's say he says, Amanas sheteitze chamim ratika. Here's your get on condition that the sun shines tomorrow. Mei achshav ka'amar lo. What he means to say is, look, I'm giving you the get now. And if in fact, when the sun comes out tomorrow, the get will be activated retroactively from this moment onward. So if he passed away after this moment, it's okay, because the get happened before his passing. And the same would be in the case of the 12-month condition. Look, here's your get. On condition I do not return after 12 months, and he passes away within 12 months, it's okay, because the Amar of Huna Marav, when you say on condition, almanas, it's like you're saying, I want it to happen now, on condition that condition is fulfilled later. But when in fact that condition is fulfilled, the get takes effect retroactively during his lifetime. So that's pretty clear. So case 1 is clear, and case 2. In which case then do we have the machlekes? The machlekes only applies to the case as follows. He gives it the get and he says, look, here's your get. If the sun comes and shines tomorrow, likewise in the case of 12 months, here's your get if I do not return after 12 months. Im loibasi. Right? So Imle Basi can mean, let's wait until then. Imle Basi can mean, well, if that takes place, then it happens from now. 2 ways to learn. So if you actually say Me'achshav, then it's clear. But you didn't say Me'achshav. That's the machlokes between the Mishnah and Rabbi Seinu. Mar Savel Rabbi Yesi de Omar Zmano Shashtam Mechiach Alov. Rabbi Seinu followed Rabbi Yesi route. The date in the star indicates that you wanted Me'achshav. It's as though you said Me'achshav. Va'avalei kim hayoyim imati. Kim Me'achshav imati. It's as though you said Me'hayoyim imati. Me'achshav imati. Where it works. Mar, but the other sheet of the Mishnah, Lo Yisrael Rabbi Yesi. It's not going with Rabbi Yesi. There's no Me'achshav. There's no Me'hayoyim. Va'avalei kim imati graded. And it's considered, like he said, if I die. Which means to say that we have to wait until that happens. And once that happens, it's too late. The Mishnah continues with the case, Kisvu utnu get lisht. Okay, so write the get. If I don't return within 12 months, and they actually wrote the get within 12 months, and they gave it to her after 12 months. Tanakama says, it doesn't work. Because they jumped the gun, they expedited the process. They were meant to wait with the writing as well. He didn't want people to know. He said, wait until 12 months to even write the get. Rabbi Yossi says, no, it works. When they wrote it before 12 months, because they issued it after 12 months, that's okay. Do you mean to say Rabbi Yossi holds kasav al t'nai kasher? Kasav get al t'nai kasher. Let's say he conditioned, he stipulated regarding the ksiva saget, and you did not follow instructions, and you wrote the get earlier. It works, because the main thing is the actual delivering of the get. The ksiva is not so crucial. Is that Rabbi Yossi's reason why it's kosher when they wrote the get so early? Lai, says the Gemara, lo'elam emlech pasel. Perhaps all agree that the condition applies to the writing of the get as well. You have to follow instructions. V'shani hacha, here it's different, says Rabbi Yossi. The havali l'meimar, he should have said it differently. If he really was particular about writing it only after 12 months, he should have said imle basi. If I don't return, then kisvu utnu. That's what he should have said. If you would have wanted that, what did he say? V'amar, rather he said kisvu utnu imle bas. He switched it around slightly. Hachika amar. So you interpret his words like this: kisvu me'achshav. You can write it now if you want. Utnu imle basi, and deliver it only if I don't return after 12 months. So that's why it's kosher. Rabbanan, they respond, loishna hachi. Doesn't matter if I said it this way or that way. Bottom line is, you see clearly, he wants you to wait until 12 months, and that's when you have to write the get as well. What about the following expressions? Tana Rabbanan, la'achar shavua. Here's your get. If I don't return after this, current 7-year cycle, the Shemitah cycle. So what does that mean? I don't return after. How much time do you give him? A minute, a day, a year, a month? He has a full year to come back, Shana. So he has the full 8th year to come back. After the Shavuot means the full 8th year. Because, years comprise the 7-year cycle. So after 7 means if I miss the whole year after the 7th. Likewise, if he says, La'achar Shana, if I don't return after the year, what comprises a year? What are the building blocks which make up a year? A year is comprised of months. So you give him a month to come back. La'achar Chaysh, after the month, Shabbos a week. La'achar Shabbos Mai. What if he says, I don't come back after Shabbos? What does that mean? How long do you wait? Yasser Rav Zera Kamei, the Rabbi Asi. So Rav Zera was sitting in front of Rav Asi, and some say Amulet was Rabbi Asi Kamei Rabbi Yehuda, and he was sitting and explaining like this: V'kamar, until Tuesday, Chad b'Shavu utrei lasa, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, Basar Shabbat, relate to the last week. So you have until then to return. Abba v'chamisha mal Shabbat, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Kamish Shabbat are considered part of the next week. The same halacha applies to Havdalah. A person missed Havdalah, he has until Tuesday. Shnayim Yikrecha Targum, until Tuesday. So we find in many instances that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday relate to the previous Shabbos. Tanya Rabbi Eimer, he added another aspect to this halacha. La'achar regel shleishim yayim. If I don't return after the Yom Tov, you have 30 days to come back. Nafgar Chia. So Chia went out And he publicized this halacha. Darsha, he promoted the halacha, Mishmei the Rebbe, the name of Rebbe. He quoted Rebbe, and they praised the meaning, yeah, it's only Rebbe Shita, it's a das yachid, it's a minority opinion, we don't agree. Mishmei the Rabbim, v'likil. Then he switched it. He wanted them to accept it. He said, it's a consensus opinion, but people didn't receive it, it wasn't receptive. It wasn't received properly because they didn't paskin like this shita. Apparently the fact that the tzibur out there did not receive this well, we don't paskin like this, and Mefarshim endeavor to figure out what is the psak halacha, what is considered after Yom Tov. So some say instead of 30 days it's meant to be a half a month. Some say actually it means if you take the time remaining until the next Yom Tov, you take half of that. Until the half point is considered part of the previous Yom Tov, and that's the deadline. Okay, Hadran Loch Misha Achse. Says the Mishnah, Zoyrek get li ishtoi. If a person tosses a get to his wife, he doesn't hand her the get, he tosses it to her, throws it to her. And it lands, on the floor. She's situated inside her home. Rashi says, how could she have a home? Something which she inherited, etc. So the actual principle is the actual property belongs to her, even though he has use, he has payros, or he threw it into her yard. Harizim Megureshes, it works. As though he put it in her hand. Property is like her hand. But he tossed it to her in his house, and it landed on the floor, or in his yard. Even if the get lands together with the isha in her bed, it's his bed, and Megureshes, because it's not her property. On her bosom, on her clothing, or in her needle, basket, Harizim Megureshes, then it works. The Gemara will explain all this. But no, how do we know that in fact you can deliver a get to the isha in this indirect way, in her chutzner, in her bayis? Perhaps you have to put it in her hand. The pasuk says, because of lo sefer krisis v'nosam biyada. The Tanur Rabbana we learned in a brayse, v'nosam biyada, right? That's the pasuk. Ein liyada. Perhaps it only works if you put it directly in her hand. What about gaga on her rooftop, chatzera, her yard, karfifa, her storage area? Menayin. How do you know that works as well? Tamaloima. The pasuk says v'nosam nikol makom. I could have said ubiyada yitnenu, says Rashi. Should have said like that if he has to give it directly into her hands. V'nosan is a general term. V'nosan biyada tells you there are other ways of delivering the get, even into her property. V'tani nami yochid gabi ganav. We have the same concept by the ganav. Pasuk says, if you discover the stolen item in his hands, he has to pay. He has to pay double. Okay, so maybe yada means only in his hands. What about gaga, chatzerev, kafrifa, menayin? What if he stole the item in an indirect way? If he sees an animal walking into his backyard, he closes the door, steals it like that. Tamaloima, the pasuk says, he matzei te matzei, in any way that the item is discovered in his possession, mikol mokim. He's responsible. So now, what do you need a pasuk by get and a pasuk by ganav? That one's property is an extension of himself. But tzricha, both are needed. Each one carries a chidush. Diashmin gabi get. If we only discuss get, I would say, there it works. Because we know you can force a isha to be megar, to be divorced. It's not something that she has to, cooperate with. So perhaps you don't need such a personal, direct delivery. Even in the gag and the chutzner, it works. Aval ganav delese bal karche, but you can't force a person to steal. Eimoloi, perhaps there it has to be very personal possession, not just his property. And that's why we discuss ganav as well. V'yashmin on ganav, we only discuss ganav. I wouldn't know get. Mishum dekansi rachmana, perhaps because he violated the avera, Hashem penalizes him and holds him responsible even in this manner. Aval get leimaloi, but perhaps by get you wouldn't apply this idea. Tzricha, that's why we need both. Get and ganav have the same idea, whether it's on his person or her person or in their property. Now we have a question. Her property, chatzera, how could she be kaina via her yard? Masha kansa isha kana bala. Whatever the isha has belongs to her husband. Rashi says, well, even if perhaps the actual property is hers, the deed is on her name, but he has the payers, he has access, he has use, he has produce. So, putting a get in her yard, which is really sort of his, well, you haven't given her anything. You put it straight into your property. It's like taking it from one pocket and putting it into the other. The Gemara is going to come up with two ways to answer this problem. Amar Belazar, number one, because of law dinu dvarim, ainli benuchsayich. He gave her a document that he's disengaging from her properties. Dinu dvarim, ainli benuchsayich. Says the Gemara, 1 second. You can't just do that. If he actually gives it to her as a matana, perhaps, yeah, but here's just saying, I'm disengaging. Doesn't mean anything. Tanya, listen to a similar halach. You have two partners. He says, look, I had enough of you. Dinu dvarim ainli al-sadazu. I have nothing to do with this field. That's it. Leave me out of it. I'm not involved. I'm pulling back. It's worthless. Unless he actually gives him matana. So you see these expressions, these lashonos don't work. I'll tell you how it can work before he even got it. He could put a block to refuse taking possession. Initially, when he was meant to get it, he could block it at that point. Then these expressions can work as well. I'm not interested in accepting it. Because he loved Oida Arusa, he wrote this lashon when she was still only engaged to him, and the husband is only zoich and nichsim elog upon marriage. So at this early point in the game, before he actually got zechus and access and ownership, he can use even these expressions, as we find in a similar halach, sort of jumping from one to the next. Ukad Rav Kahana. Dam Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana tells us a similar idea. Nachla haba leila adam mimakim achar. Suppose there's an inheritance coming to a person from mimakim achar. Rashi says it means not a close relative, not a father who's moirish to him, who gives it to him min Torah. Something called a Yerusha d'Rabbanan, let's say from a wife to a husband. So it's not min Torah, it's also min Rabbanan. A person can refuse. Masna oleosh le'Yerushana. I could say, look, I don't want it. Kudarava. As we find a similar halacha in the name of Rava. So sort of hopscotching from one to the other, but it's based on the same idea, the same concept. A person says, look, I'm disinterested in this takana that Chachamim did for my benefit, for my good. We listen to him, we accept it. What is Rava referring to? My kigonzu, what particular case was Rava referring to? We know that a wife gets mezoines, is fed by her husband, and in exchange he gets her earnings, masi yadayim. Well, she can say, look, I'm a high earner. What does he give me? Some peanut butter sandwiches? You know what? Even deal. You keep your sandwiches, I'll keep my earnings. You can do that. Because after all, it was meant for her benefit. A woman can turn to her husband and say, look, hold it by you, I'll hold it by me. I refuse your mezoines. I'm not giving you my earnings. So we see from here, we see from the halach of Rav Kahana, it's all the same idea that one has the ability to turn down a takana done for his benefit. So that answers our kasha. Sure, he's entitled to access her nichsei miluk, but let's say they're still engaged, he can put a block on it. I do not wish to receive that privilege, and that's it. Now when she marries him, it's totally hers. And that's the chutzah that the Mishnah is speaking about, which allows him to toss a get into there. It's totally her property, an extension of herself, and she is zoicha, and she is divorced. That's one approach. Rava Amar, I'll give you another approach, another answer to this problem. What was your kasha? It's his chutzah. Well, that's how get works. Look, ato yada milakani leilabal. What about her hands? Suppose he puts the get directly into her hands. Her earnings belong to her husband, so her hands are sort of committed to her husband as well. So how does one ever give a get to a wife? He's putting it back into her hands, sort of his hand. Ella, you must say, the Torah introduces a new concept. Gitava yada ba'in ke'echad. Rashi, you have to see Rashi here. Rashi is to the left here. Gita v'yada ba'in ke'echad. Al yidei haget ba'a yada la im nesinasei. Couldn't have said it better. Through the get, she acquires her ability to acquire the get as the get is being given to her. It's sort of like a perpetual cycle. perpetual circle. You're getting the ability to get the get by getting the get in your hands. So it's a simultaneous process. The Torah gives her the koyach to get the get as soon as she holds the get. Okay, so if that works by Yodayim, it works by Chatzar as well. Hachanami here as well. That answers your question. Gita v'chatzir b'an ke'echad. When the get lands in her Chatzar, that initiates the divorce process, which allows her to acquire the Chatzar, which will acquire the get together with the Chatzar. So it's a simultaneous process. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Rava had a chiddush, but it was based on what? Rava yad d'isha kukashile. He proved this simultaneous concept from the fact that every isha can be makabel get in her hands. Hands belong to the husband. How does it work? Okay, so we figured it out. Well, what does that say? What does that prove? Who says the husband owned her hands to begin with? It's committed to him in terms of her earnings. She has to forward her earnings to her husband. Does he actually own her hands? So surely he can put a get into her hands. It's her hands. As opposed to our case of the chatzar, the entire chatzar is producing his produce, his payraise. It's almost a full ownership. Who says that works? Who says he could put a get into that thing which is sort of primarily his? Amalei, so Rav Ashi responded, I'll explain to you where Rava was coming from. Not the yad of an isha. You're right, that yad belongs to her. Rava, yad ha'eved kukashale. His kasha was from the eved, an eved Kanani. You can set him free by how? According to the Shita, b'shtar de atzmei. If an Eved receives his own release document, he goes free. Question, how does that work? Yad Eved ki yad Rabbi. Damya. Here, certainly, the entire guf, the body of the Eved, belongs to his master. So how can you set him free by putting a shtar in his hands, which really belong to you? Oh. So here we have to apply that concept, that circular concept. Elo gita v'yad b'en ke'echad. The get and his ability to acquire the get come as one. Hachanami here as well by the isha. Gita v'chatzera b'en ke'echad. That answers our problem. So we had a kasha. Sure, we have a pasuk that you can place a get not only in her hands but even in her properties. But if the property primarily belongs to the husband, so he's not giving her anything. He's not putting it on her property. We have two answers. Either he refused ownership still while they were in that pre-marriage state, or we have a new concept called Gita v'chatzera b'an ke'echad. It was a critically ill person who quickly wrote a get to his wife, Bahadi Panya, the Mal Shabbat, right before Friday evening, right before Shabbos. And he didn't get a chance to give it to her on Friday. The next day, Takavli Alma, he was overcome by his illness, he was about to pass away, and there was an issue of Yibum, he wanted to quickly divorce her. Oslo came to Rava, they came to Rava, what should we do? And Rashi explains, you can't even pick up a get, because really a get is meant for divorcing, and not meant to divorce on Shabbos, so the get is muktzah. And this fellow didn't really plan on giving the get on Shabbos. So even if perhaps we allow a shchimer on this day to actually do kinyanim, because we want him to, stay calm and settled and not agitate his condition, but here the get was moktzah, because even he didn't expect it to be used on Shabbos. Also, Rav Amr Lahu, he tells him, look, you can give it to her without touching it. Zilu imrule, go tell the husband, liknei ni'ala lau duchta. Listen to this trick. Make a kinyan, give her the actual location, the place, the space where the yasa begita that the get is sitting on. Okay, so give her the sort of the karka, and she'll make a kinyan chazaka on that karka, and with the karka will come the shtar. It's called kinyan agav. When you acquire the land, you acquire something which is on top of it. V'tezel i, and she'll go over to the the room there, and she'll do chazaka. V'teichud, v'tiftach, she'll close up the door, and she'll open the door, and that's a form of chazaka. V'tachzik bei, and she'll be zaycha in in the get. I'm sorry, she'll be Zaycha the Makim, the Karka, and by doing so, she'll be Zaycha in the get, which he wants to give her together with the Karka. This is not as we learned. No, all a person locks the door of a property that he wants to acquire, God, or he makes a fence, parats, or he disrupts the fence, kolsh, even just a bit, here's a chazaka, it's called a chazaka. So it's interesting. We don't allow him to actually do muktzah, but we do allow him them to do a kinyan and to divorce. And the Farshim endeavored to explain the difference. Rashba, Ritva explained that, the Chachamim, although they went out of their way to, address this critically ill person's concerns and anxiety and his needs, but we try to do it in a way that's not visibly contravening Shabbos. So, open a door, it's not so visible, it's not so noticeable, that we allow. Actually, some learn that it wasn't a muktzah issue. That's Rashi's shita, but others learn that it would have required delivering it through the street. So that, that certainly you can't do on Shabbos. Okay, now comes a kasha. So she's zoich in the room, the property, and by doing that, she's zoich in the get. Here comes a kasha to Rava. Masha kansa isha kanabala. Whatever she gets goes straight to her husband. So she never got anything. Ichsiv, Rava was embarrassed. He was stumped. Right? So Rava, who had allowed this process, was stumped. It turns out that she was really only engaged. She wasn't really a married woman. Rava says that's a saving grace. If we say that, a married woman, his property belongs to her husband, would that apply to an engaged woman? No. So it works fine, because she was only engaged. She was kind of the property, and it's hers, and now she can kind of get on top of it. Now Rava came back and added a new twist, which actually corresponds with the previous Rava. You know what? It makes no difference if she's an arusa or nesua. Why? How does it work? Right? So, when the Torah presents to us the concept of giving a get, delivering a get, v'nasam b'yada, what the Torah means to tell us is, look, by way of getting the get, you can also acquire the koyach to receive the get and to acquire the property which has the get on it. Asks the Gemara, what's the big news here? Va'amra Rava meikara. We already have Rava before telling us the same idea. You're right. Ki amra Rava, ahai ma'isa amra. This story occurred first. So this happened first. And Rava applied this rationale, introduced this new concept on this story with the Shechimra, and based on that, we have the Rava in the previous Gemara as well, which corresponds with this Rava, which provides an answer to our Mishnah. How could the Chatzar provide a kinyan for the Isha? So he tosses the get to the Isha. Right? So it works. So the concept here is that even if it's not given to her personally, rather dropped into her property, it works. Amar Ula, there's a condition here. It only works provided if shemedes b'tzad beis or b'tzad chatzer. She's standing right beside, some learn inside the home or the chatzer. Raveshi ever know? Afili b'tvaria v'chatzer b'tzipari. She can be far, far away. She's in one city and the chatzer is in Tzipari. He b'tzipari. She's standing in Tzipari. Chatzer b'tvaria. Chatzer's in Tzipari. B'guresh, it works. What do you mean? The Mishnah indicates otherwise. Va'i b'seich beis v'seich chatzer ogtani. Doesn't the Mishnah clearly say that she has to be standing there? The Mishnah just means like this. We treat it as though we treat it as though she's standing there. Basically, what it means to say is that her property is an extension of herself. What does that mean? Since the chatzar here is a secure area, which she is controlling, meaning nobody else is in control of this chatzar. She has the lock, she has the combination. Right? So that's why it works. So physically, practically speaking, she doesn't have to be standing at the chatzar. The mission just means to say she's in control of this chatzar. as opposed to, let's say, it's her property, but somebody else is sitting on it, renting it, and it's not mishtameres ledata, then it wouldn't work. But if it's mishtameres ledata, she's in control, then it's an extension of her, even if she's not standing there. Leima b'kamifliki. So now we have a difference of opinion. Chatzah works, but does it have to be in close proximity to the isha? She has to be standing right there, or even far away. What is the machlekes about? Perhaps the mar savar chatzah mishum yoda yisraboy. The shita that says that she has to be standing there, because we view the chatzar as another version of her hand, which is right near the person. Umar savar chatzah mishum shlichus raboy. The other shita says no. Chatzar is like a messenger, like an emissary, working on your behalf. That's the, that concept forms the basis for kinyan chatzar. In which case, just like by a shliach, could be the other side of the world, same thing with the chatzar. It's her property, wherever she is. Is that the machlekes? Chatzar equated to yad or to shlichus? No, loy the kuli alma chatzar mishum yad yisrabai. Perhaps everybody agrees that chatzar is sort of another version of her hand. It's an extension of her body. Rather, mar savar ki yada. One shita says, look, if chatzar is like yad, then it has to be like her hand all the way. Ma yada b'smucha, just like her hand is right near herself. Av chatzar b'smucha, likewise the chatzar has to be right there. Vidach, the other shita disagrees, because he says, look, if so, then im ma yada b'dvuka, av chatzar b'dvuka. So once you say that, go a step further. Well, if so, then just like her hand is attached to her, her chatzar has to be attached to her. Right? If once you're equating it, compare it all the way. Ella, rather, you don't need it to be that personal. Kiyada. True. Chatzah is like her hand, but in a different way, in a different sense. Ma yada mishtameres ladata. What's unique about her hand? It's a place which is being controlled by her. Av chatzera mishtameres ladata. Likewise, the chatzah which qualifies is a type of chatzah which is a secure area controlled by her. That's all. So sure, we're comparing it to yad, but in a limited sense. As long as it fits this bill, it's okay. As opposed to what? As opposed to somebody else controlling her chatzah, that's not called mishtameres ladata, it doesn't work. Lafuki chatzah mishtameres shaloi ladata. As opposed to a property or something that she owns, but under somebody else's control. Okay, so bottom line is, we know that you can toss a get into her property. She has to be right there, or even at a distance. There was a story, Ahu Gavra, this fellow, the Zorakla Gita Lidvisu. He takes a get and tosses it to his wife. Havakame b'chatzar, she was standing in a chatzar, Azal Gita nafal v'pisla. The get fluttered and fluttered until it landed on this sort of post or stage. Amar Rav Yosef, what's the halacha? Chazinan, let's go measure. If this stage was 4 ames by 4 ames in size, it's called its own entity, its own place, and it's not sort of batel to the chatzar, and the get doesn't work. And soon the Gemara will explain exactly why and when. But if it's not that large, it's smaller, then it's part of the yard. It's one area, and it works. Now, what happened here? What's the case? Who owns the yard? Is it hers? Then who cares how big the stage is? It's all hers anyways. Who cares if it's 4 ames? It's his yard. Well, it doesn't work. He never gave her anything. He didn't put her into her property. Even if it's less than 4 ames in size, what good is it? Like Tzricha apparently was speaking to Oishla Makit. What happened was that he lent her a place in the chatzar. Okay, so he's sort of giving her permission to use his chatzar in order to receive the get. And he threw the get, and it landed, instead of on the actual chatzar, it landed on the stage, on this post, this elevated area. The chad makkah mushli inshi. A person, lends one area. Here, I'll give you rishus to use one area. Trei makkah mushli inshi. You saw me, you wanted her to have one area for the get, not 2 places. So he gave her permission, access to 1, not to 2. So now if it landed on the stage, well, if it's its own separate entity, its own separate domain, so to speak, then it's not included. He let her use the chutzner, not the stage. But if it's small enough to be considered part of the chutzner, then it works. And when do we say that the 4 amma, stage area determines? Ela delay gavoy asar, only if it's not 10 tefachim high. Aval gavoy asar, but if it's already 10 tefachim high, afagav delay have arba ames, even if the actual area on top is less than 4 ames, it's no good, because 10 tefachim is, by essence, its own place, and again, it's considered a new area. When do we say that if it's small enough it works? Other less shem levai, it doesn't have its own, name. People refer to it, the bump, the post, the stage. Aval isle shem levai, but if it has its own unique name, it's called a very special, a certain name which is unique to this thing. The green hump. So no matter how big it is, even if it's not 10 high, even if it's not 4 amas wide, the gerushin doesn't work, because if it has its own shem, it's chashiv, it's its own entity, it's not batal to the chatzar, it's not included in the makim that he lent her. Okay, let's briefly recap today's daf. We started with the fellow who made a condition and he passed away before 12 months. So it all depends how he said it. If he said it's only going to work then, and he passed away before, it doesn't work. If he said on condition, then he meant from now, mi'achshav, it works. What if he left out the word mi'achshav? He just said im mati. Then we have this machlokes between the Mishnah and the Brisa. We explained Rabbi Yosef's halacha in the Mishnah regarding writing the get before 12 months. We had all kinds of expressions, after the year, after the month, after the week, what all these things mean, until Tuesday is considered part of last week. We had a chiddush in the next Mishnah, the Gemara. Nasam b'yada isn't necessarily specific to her hand. Even her chatzar works, sending by the Geneva. We had a tzricha to explain both. We had a big question. How can you even speak about her chatzar? It's really hers, his. We have 2 ways to answer. Either he refused that right, he wrote to her this nusach before he got married, or Rabbi's chiddush, gavaldi chiddush, we say gita v'yada bain ke'echad, chatzera v'yada bain ke'echad. When you use the chatzar, does she has to be standing there? Machlokes. And the story of the fellow who loaned his wife access to a makom, to the chatzar, then it landed on the post. We discussed when it is considered part of the chatzar and when it's considered its own separate place, and therefore you have to redo the nesinas haget. All the best, Yonat Tzlach Rabba.